Hello, my name is Gav Cross,
Hello, my name's John Reppion.
and we are Haunted Book Club, and we're here with Haunted Book Clubbers live on Substack, usually at Tuesday, usually 9 p.m. Now, tonight we're going to be looking at an Algernon Blackwood story, The Empty House. If you haven't read it, you'll get more out of it by having read it. If you can't be bothered to read it, I have read it for you, because this is the book club where we always do the reading for you. It's the one beforehand, because you can subscribe to these on Substack, YouTube, and audio only. So it's much better, if you're listening to this back, that you know the story. I mean, you can hardly call it spoilers. It's 120 years old.
Yeah.
Now, John, The Empty House, Algernon Blackwood. Why did you choose this one? Very quickly, I'm going to ask you that.
Did I choose this one? Because it is an absolute classic, and from these ghost story collections that we're always looking at for our books, is one of the ones that crops up time and time again. It's a simple idea, but it's incredibly well executed.
Okay. I'm going to agree with you there. I loved it, and I'll tell you about my experience of recording it in a bit. But this is the Haunted Book Club, and you are the book covers. So even if you're watching this back, if you're watching it live or you're watching a recording, type in now, did you really enjoy this story? Was it a woohoo for you? You type that in if you enjoyed it. If you weren't so sure, and that's the thing about book clubs, you don't have to like it. You don't have to pretend to us. Be your genuine self. Was it a boohoo for you? So, The Empty House by Algernon Blackwood. Is it a woohoo or a boohoo? Would it be spoilers, John, for you to tell us what you would give it?
I would give it a woohoo, definitely.
An absolute woohoo for me.
Yeah.
I one of my favourites I've read. It's a woohoo from Barry. He's gone a bit overboard on the ooze as well.
Oh.
A boohoo from Claire. This is why we like this conversation. A woohoo from Katie, and hopefully we'll get a couple more, and even be interesting if you are watching this back to let us know. Very much woohoo, says Helen. There's an emphatic coming in there. Hello, Helen. Coming in there emphatically. So I'm going to be controversial here and give us a quick couple of words on why you've made your choice. What is it about it that was woohoo, and what is it about it that's boohoo? And is there a sitting on the fence version, woo boo or boo woo? Maybe Rachel. Sitting on the fence. Claire and Rachel sitting on the fence. Did you see that? As soon as Rachel said they were on the fence, Claire's like, oh yeah, I want to be on the fence too. Two grown adults. Okay, now that's it. Really interesting, because I'd really like to know why. So what happens at the book club is John gives us a little bit of info behind the scenes and some detail, and then we have a chat. Okay, okay, John. If you want to type in your views, I'll come back to it as we go through. But John's dead talk. Tell us about The Empty House by Algernon Blackwood.
Okay, so I've still got notes. I'm going to try and wean myself off the notes, but I've still got notes because, as I always say, I'm a writer, not a rememberer. So I'll tell you a little bit about Blackwood first. So he was born in Shooters Hill, which is in London now. It was in Kent then, 1869. He was the son of Sir Stephen Arthur Blackwood and Harriet Dobbs, who was the widow of the 6th Duke of Manchester. So he was pretty well off, as a lot of these writers are. But he didn't have kind of what you might think of a normal Victorian gentleman's life. He was a dairy farmer in Canada. He ran a hotel in Canada. He was a bartender, a model, a violin teacher.
A model?
A model at some point, yeah. He wrote for the New York Times. He was a private secretary. He did a lot of different things. And he was also very interested in esotericism, which is a hard word to say. So stuff like Buddhism, Taoism, Confucianism, all that kind of stuff, as well as the occult. He was one of the founding members of the Toronto Theosophical Society.
That's easy for you to say.
Well, it wasn't. He was a member of the Golden Dawn alongside Aleister Crowley. I don't know if he was actually friends with Crowley, but it's the same kind of date. He was a member of the Ghost Club, which has cropped up before. Some other authors were members too. So he was really interested in, he was a believer, basically. He was a believer in the paranormal, the supernatural, and he also believed in investigating these things. He was what would have been called a mystic, I suppose, at the time. He was kind of believed in magic, believed in the supernatural, but he was also kind of a bit of a paranormal investigator, a gentleman adventurer, if you will.
The mystic arts.
Yeah, the mystic arts.
Doctor Strange.
A follower of the left-hand path, as Tony Hancock would say. So as an author, Blackwood's probably most famous for The Wendigo and The Willows, which are like two absolute masterworks of weird fiction, like held up as some of the best kind of their novellas. I think both of those really. He had 6 original short story collections of weird tales, ghostly tales, published during his lifetime. But he also had 9 more collections published during his lifetime, which just took stories from those other ones and re-anthologized them. So he had loads of collections out before these ghost story anthologies were a thing. There was he had his own whole, you could have had a whole shelf full of them. And he had a reputation for being able to crank out short stories at very short notice. So actually, even the Blackwood scholars don't seem to know how many stories he actually wrote, because he did just sort of churn them out. So this has got nothing to do with anything, but this is a good Blackwood fact. I think that his 1913 novel, A Prisoner in Fairyland, was adapted by him and somebody called Violet Penn into a stage play in 1915. The play featured music specially composed by Edward Elgar, and it was called The Starlight Express.
Oh.
Andrew Lloyd Webber borrowed the title for his own, but it hasn't really got anything to do with it. This is just like Thomas the Tank Engine on roller skates, isn't it? It's not really. So that's a bit disappointing, but it is weird. He also created the occult detective John Silence, who was a big influence on William Hope Hodgson and his Carnacki the Ghost Finder. And basically, Blackwood's this incredible character, incredibly prolific and incredibly interesting in his own right. And there's really too much to say about him in one podcast. But The Empty House itself, so it was published in 1906 in a collection which was called, do you know what the collection was called? It was called The Empty House and Other Stories. And it's been reprinted, as I say, loads of times in these ghost story collections, and it's sort of one of the best short haunted house stories, alongside things like The Red Room by H.G. Wells. It's sort of a classic that slots into all these anthologies really well. So the story, we've got Jim Shorthouse, who's the main character, who, I don't know about you, but because of his comedic name, I imagine him as a 1970s Ronnie Corbett character.
Okay, I didn't. but I know where you're coming from.
Yeah. So, yeah, that possibly makes the story a bit harder to take as seriously as it should be. But weirdly, Jim Shorthouse, in this original collection, he crops up in 4 stories. So he's a recurring character, and he sort of becomes an occult detective himself by the time you get to Intent to Steal is the name of the story. But they're not in order. And again, Blackwood scholars argue about what order you should read them in. So there's a bit of a strange...
Oh, let's not do that. That's Star Wars.
Yeah, it is a little bit Star Wars.
I thought that modern fans were the worst, but it turns out that just people are awful.
Yeah.
Okay, carry on. Sorry.
Yeah, it's the Empty House episode 4. So it's a strange thing that he's a recurring character, and in The Empty House, when you're reading it as a standalone, it sort of seems like his Aunt Julia tricks Jim Shorthouse into this situation of visiting this haunted house with it. If you read it within the context of the book, she actually gets him to go because she knows that he's got experience with the supernatural. But I think it works both ways. And actually, I think it works better as a standalone rather than... I think this was the thing that Blackwood was a little bit obsessed with, was reoccurring characters and sort of episodic
See, I
things.
didn't think she tricked him into it. I think she wanted him. And it was like their little thing that they did.
Yeah.
Not knowing there was a wider world, the cinematic universe of Blackwood, Richard Blackwood. Nathan says that Jim Shorthouse is quite a Bob Mortimer style name. See, I never made any reference to the...
And then for a cat.
I didn't go for nominative determinism. Otherwise, if I did, I'm Gav Cross, and I would be furious all the time.
Now I'm just thinking of other, like Jim Shorthouse, Mr. Binbags, sort of all those kind of Bob Mortimer names. I don't think she tricked him, as in she sprung it on him as a surprise, and it seems like a little bit of a playful surprise, but it's got a wider context with the other stories. So what The Empty House is really is it's an exercise in tension. It's not so much about the things that happen, I don't think, that make it a really good story. I think it is about the way that Blackwood places us in the situation, makes us imagine what it's like being in this haunted house, and gives us these the experiences of the people, of Jim and his aunt. And there's also this brilliant thing about the interplay between the two characters, how they're feeding off each other's fear, and also this thing of feeding off each other's bravery, and how like he keeps being like inspired by how brave his aunt is able to be in this strange situation. So because Blackwood was a believer and he did do ghost investigations himself, there's slightly more method to the way they go into the haunted house than you might expect. They don't kind of blunder around it. Like there's this whole plan to search the place from top to bottom and to make sure there's nobody hiding. There's this thing where Shorthouse is taking notes the whole time, and kind of they're trying to record it, and they're trying to do it as this kind of proper paranormal investigation.
That's what I got. That this is what they do.
Yeah,
he's got this cheeky aunt and him, and they kind of like they go off on these psychic explorations together. I didn't, again, not knowing there was a whole world of it.
Yeah,
that's the feeling I got.
Yeah, and that dynamic and that idea is like really interesting and endearing, isn't it? Of her being this playful, he talks about her with her crinkled apple skin cheeks, and she's a sort of venerable and old lady, but she is really
probably our age, my age.
Yeah. But she's really like, there's a bit of mischief in it and a bit of fun, and he's really pleased to see her this excited about it, until it starts to go badly wrong. I mean, I suppose really it doesn't exactly go wrong, because they get exactly what they went for. It's just that it turns out that they might not have been quite as prepared for that as they thought. So there's interesting stuff about the house as well. It's not this Gothic mansion. He makes a big deal of saying that it's exactly like all the other houses.
A big, tall seaside terrace, something that you get in these old seaside Kentish, I imagine Sussex, tall, well-to-do, big. Like, I can imagine those houses. They're very, because obviously we know how many floors there are. There's at least 4. That's an attic, isn't there? And a basement, and it goes right back.
So there'd be hotels now. Like, it's easier to imagine them as hotels, isn't it? But like, he definitely says it's not a frightening looking house. And what is frightening about it, until the kind of supernatural elements ramp up, there's a whole kind of Mary Celeste thing going on, isn't there? There's this thing of recent abandonment, and there's a good little... So what's the little passage I've pulled out? There are cupboards with empty jars still standing on the shelves. There are horrible little ghostly back offices, even colder and less inviting than the last. Everywhere there was a scene of recent occupation, an impression of sadness and gloom. So it's a normal place. But what's frightening about it is people have been driven away from it. Yeah. The emptiness is the frightening thing of it. And also, I think...
Hence the title.
Exactly. There's this idea of not being welcome as well. I think they go in very good-naturedly, as if it's a laugh, and very soon they're like, something doesn't want us to be here, and they shouldn't have been, they shouldn't have gone there, I think is the impression they come away with, isn't it?
I thought they got exactly what they wanted, and the fact that there's no follow-up, even though we might want it. They were plainly went hoping to see a ghost. They plainly had a supernatural experience of some kind or another, and then they got out. And to me, my imagination was fired by them kind of heavy breathing on the cold seafront of a midnight, and then it's like, whoa, and where it went from there. That was what excited me about the story.
And it's lovely, actually. The very, to jump to the very end is just this one sentence where they get outside the house, and the whole point is it's not. Nothing has changed. The world hasn't changed. Go on, what is the last sentence?
With trembling hands, Shorthouse opened the front door, and they walked out into the moonlight and drew a deep breath of the cool night air blowing in from the sea. I thought they would go back in. Honestly.
Go back in for another look.
Yeah, I think that's what excited me about this story, that maybe they got more than they bargained for, but they'll be bang on it. They'll be like, right, now what do we do?
Yeah, well, it's pushed to the limit, isn't it? The whole point is they go in. So we get because Blackwood's prose is quite dense, he can do the thing where he actually tells you what's going to happen, and you've sort of forgotten by the time you get to it. So they explain what the haunting is, like in detail, don't they? Where's the actual, she says about this murder that's been committed. Here you go. It has to do with a murder committed by a jealous stableman who had some affair with a servant in the house. One night he managed to secrete himself in the cellar, and when everyone was asleep, he crept up the stairs to the servants' quarters, chased the girl down to the next landing, and before anyone could come to the rescue, threw her bodily over the banisters down into the hall below.
Which is terribly sad. Which is horrible, and it buys into, again, this eternal storytelling. Look at the biggest film this summer, Spider-Man, The Odyssey, and 3,000 years of kind of like, once again, boils down to violence against women.
Yeah.
Terribly sad, almost casually. That's how casual setup.
Yeah, and I think it is treated quite casually, and it's a little bit of a juicy murder, even to the ant. It's a bit of it's a bit kind of salacious, and it's almost a bit of fun, even though it is this obvious tragedy. And I think brilliantly what the story does is, because they end up basically experiencing the haunting, is exactly that murder.
It's a stone tape recording.
It is literally a stone tape recording. Do
you know what that means? John, what does that mean?
So it's the building itself, this traumatic thing has happened there, and it's been recorded by the fabric of the building somehow, and it just gets replayed. So it's not a haunting that you can interact with. It's basically just something that plays over and over as a loop. And they, it's fulfilled. They get to hear all of that happening, but both of them refuse to see it happen. So you say they get what they came for, and they wanted to see a ghost, and they did. Actually, both of them deliberately don't see the ghost at the end. Okay, they shy away from it.
Just want to pick up something Rachel said. The main reason, says Rachel, why they were on the shelf, I think the fence, they're not on the shelf, is the gentle misogyny running through it. But it is beautifully written, and suspense building was brilliant. Okay, I'd like to pick up on this a little bit, if that's all right.
Yeah.
John, because I agree with you. But then, you can disagree with me vociferously. One of the things I really picked up on is how we're seeing this through the lens. See, I saw Jim Shorthouse as a big, tall, broad military type. It's like, oh, come on, auntie, pull yourself together and have a little bit of fun. Everything will be okay. Because all the references all the way through was, I'm bricking it, but look at my auntie, this poor old lady, probably, as I say, my age. She's with such fortitude and bravery that he draws his strength and bravery, and though it's perhaps performative, he has to present to her that he's okay. Come on, right, we've got this. This is what we're going to do. It's her strength of character that gives him his physical strength to get them through the house and then out again.
Yeah, and there is there's a really strange. Like, it's a good bit, but it's a bit that always stands out to me in the story, and I'd forgotten until I reread it. There's this weird thing that happens because there's so much stuff about how both of them react and how they feed off each other's reactions. And so there's this bit where he looks at his aunt and he says, an extraordinary something had come into her face, and it seemed to spread over her features like a mask. It smoothed out the deep wrinkles and drew the skin everywhere a little tighter so that the wrinkles disappeared. It brought to the face with the sole exception of the old eyes, an appearance of youth and almost childhood. So I sort of don't know how to read it, whether it is him like wanting to protect her as if she is a child, or
I didn't see that
kind of the supernatural, this whole thing stripping away the sort of cynicalness of adulthood and returning to that kind of.
I saw a non-supernatural reason for that, and it'd be interesting if you picked up on this, if you got a thought. So this auntie wanted to do this. She's there. Yes, she's scared. Yes, she's like petrified at points, but there's an excitement there. And when people are excited, I mean, we attribute certain behaviors and facial shapes to being young, and excitement and giddiness and fear and adrenaline is a young person's game. But so this moment is so kind of like, this is happening because she plainly wants to see a ghost, otherwise she wouldn't see that. So that's where the youth is the strip. What he's not seeing her physically changing. He's seeing her alive. He's just seeing her kind of like the old person, like we do whenever we look at old people like yourself. We just see the carapace. But when someone is excited and dynamic and it changes their whole face, that's what I got from it.
Yeah, and so it's making him almost like see her as more human, I guess, less of just a caricature of an old person. But so it is interesting, the kind of, and it's, I mean, there's a lot of casual misogyny in a lot of these stories. Biographically, I would say that Blackwood was he was a very keen outdoorsman, and he never married. Is
that euphemism, John?
He did. He liked the outdoors, but he used to. A lot of his stories are basically just one barely English chap, and usually a foreigner of some description that he's employed to go on a trip with him, and they have a lovely manly time.
I think there's a lot of erotic homosexual undertones to a number of his stories.
Yeah,
that's obviously capped off by the time, but also we can't pretend that there wasn't anything. There's so much sexuality in writing. In all writing, going back, everyone would have known, and I think there's a lot of signalling in his stories or of his lifestyle, because he wasn't, he was part of that set, wasn't he?
Yeah.
All right, so let's have some thoughts from yourselves, particularly if you're still on the fence, and particularly I'd like to what you thought about that, because I found it really creepy. I'll tell you about recording it in a minute. Barry says, favourite quote: "He took the brandy flask and poured out a glass of neat spirit, stiff enough to help anybody over anything." Whoa! I do, because I've read a few of Blackwood's stuff before, and I think there's a beautiful, soft, kind of like a signalling in his writing, the solo gentleman and his friends, and I think it would have been better for him to be more open about things. We're projecting a little bit, perhaps, but I'm glad that he did infuse his writing with that suggestion as well. Rachel says, I felt the pulling strength from the aunt started to make me feel she was just surprised the whole way through. She's able to do any of this without fainting. I get that, yeah. But she didn't leave, did she? She didn't leave. She stayed. I think she was at the limit of her fear. To be fair, I've read this story before. Barry may remember. I was recording it, sat here, and I set the recording off, and I do it as one take. And I left the window open, and you can't see the garden. And the story started giving me the creeps. And then I kind of got the judders, and I started imagining a face at the window. And I'm not this kind of person. It really got to me. And then I was going to go, I can't do this. I got to stop and close the curtain here. And I was 20 minutes in. There was no way I was going to do that. So actually, my tension was really raised with the tension of the story. Also, could a gentleman explain the severe trials of the inner man? Okay. So that I know I keep going back to H.G. Wells because he's in my head a lot.
Yeah.
That's kind of a euphemism for mental health, isn't it? The inner man.
Yeah.
The man, the stripping, it's the language, his fear of the notion of being unmanned.
Yeah.
Which, of course, in the 21st century is a very, a male-centric term, but it's a male writer with a male character lead. To be unmanned, it's only 10 years ago people were constantly using the phrase "man up."
Yeah, we
know we don't want to use that anymore. There's better ways of.
But I think the inner man is kind of the precursor of the the less understanding version of the inner child. It's the same thing as going there's a version of you inside yourself that is the one that kind of needs to be looked after and looked upon. But it's just that in those days it was and I expect he's a chap with a broad chest and he takes no nonsense.
That's a big task. And but it's only I'm a big Young Ones fan, and I know that I'm not supporting this phrase, but referring to somebody being scared is only being a bit girly.
Yeah,
and that is that. So it's in recent history that we have made it a gender. Men are brave and girls must be protected. But I'm very scared. But she's being very brave, so I will be very brave as well. So maybe there of course there's a casual misogyny to it because of the lens. But I don't think he would have got through without his aunt, actually.
No, I don't think he would. I think he might have even just left if she wasn't there. I think he might have just,
Okay. Right, anybody else who's on the fence about it, let me know. Was there a ghost?
Well, so what's good is there's a good ghost that he sees the ghost, but she doesn't see the ghost, and he's very pleased that she doesn't see the ghost, and that is the face, isn't it? The face that you were scared of seeing at your window.
Yeah.
And it is a good kind of 21st century Hollywood kind of ghost, isn't it? As he rose from the stooping position of balancing the candle, and before it was actually extinguished, a face thrust itself forward so close to his own that he could almost have touched it with his lips. It was a face working with passion, a man's face, dark with thick features and angry, savage eyes. It belonged to a common man, and it was evil in its ordinary, normal expression, no doubt.
Oh, yeah, they're not bothered about the class, class war nature of it, casual anti-working class. But yeah, okay, fair enough.
But yeah, just this. So this face just appears, and then the candle goes out. So it's a blink and you'd miss it moment. But I think that. So maybe you didn't really see that. We could say that was just
who knows?
The atmosphere. But
tell me what you think. Do you think there was a ghost? Was there a ghost in this story? Rachel says, just for the record, I love the aunt. So do I. To be a quirky old aunt dragging my nephew into the adventures is the life goal, and it is. It did feel like the start of a series of adventures. It's like an E.F. Benson style.Maybe I've got Map and Lucia. I'm really imprinted by Map and Lucia and those slightly later stories of the upper, the middle classes.
But it did remind me of the. She's not an aunt, is she? But the woman in spinach who lures them to the cottage.
Yeah.
There's kind of I like that there's these mischievous old ladies who are
older ladies
who are trying to lure people into haunted places the whole time.
Claire saw themselves as the elderly spinster aunt too. That's a can of worms we're not qualified to address. So moving on. Now, I love the atmosphere building. I love that whole going up into, because the house, like you talked about, the house was clear, empty, except for that servants' quarter with the room. Plainly, that's a room that has had an atmosphere when it's like all the broken things are shoved in that room.
Yeah.
So there's a point where this horrific act started, where people was like, "I'm not staying in that room." So there's a focal point, a locus to this.
Yeah,
it's full of all the broken objects, and that's where they stop and they kind of watch the show or hear the show and listen to this and say stone tape. That's a Nigel Neal, isn't it? The stone.
Yeah,
tape?
it is. Yeah.
So is it 60s, 70s?
70s, I think.
Classic bit of BBC drama. I've got it on DVD upstairs, which I haven't got round to watching. I don't think there was a conscious ghost. But what you mentioned earlier, just a replay of the terrible act. Yeah, the stone tape, the recording, that this horrific act just imprints itself. And again, it goes back to that description. Places aren't inherently evil, but what happens in them makes it so.
Yeah, and so, you sort of come full circle and you realise the reason the empty house is the empty house isn't just because there's something going on there. It's because nothing else can go on there anymore. It's like literally this loop of what has happened is sort of stopping anything else being able to happen there. And it makes me think that probably that never stops until that house is knocked down, that you'd never get away from that.
No.
It would always be the empty house.
Mm. Mm. Okay. Do you think they ever go back into the house? Real supposition.
I don't know if they ever go back into that. I wasn't imagining that they go back into the house, but you think that they go back in?
I don't know, but I liked how exciting it was, and it ends immediately on the threshold, not even down the steps. They get out, they go,
yeah, it's literally
and it's left to our imagination what their next words would be. And obviously, if it was us today, it'd be like, whoa, what was that?
Yeah.
I think, to me, they would have gone out and looked at each other and gone, and they would be straight round somebody's house.
Yeah.
It'll be the talk of the town. They'd be like, "Come, you got to." I don't think there's any in there. What do you think? I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think they might have. Yeah, I don't know if they'd gone back in themselves, but they might have passed it on that it was worth visiting.
I shall write this up for the Strand.
Yeah.
I shall, dear editor. Maybe we're kind of like culturally influenced by Lady Bracknell with every kind of old female character. But it is, I must very much, I imagine that, she has a group of very clever, retired friends in this seaside town. I cannot wait to speak to my Tuesday club, and I should inform them, and we shall all be here next Friday.
Yeah,
Jim, you must return.
Richard Osman will be writing that book now, I imagine.
Good for him.
Yeah.
I've not read any of his stuff, but I hear they're very good. I like him.
He seems like a nice enough fella.
He does.
But I think he was probably getting paid up enough before he started writing books.
Well, that's a understandable writer. Could have been me. Should have been me. What about the capitalization of it?
We always like the capitalization of it.
Is that a common thing? Because it stood out to me. So in this final, I've read you the final paragraph. In the hallway, they saw nothing. The whole way down the stairs, they were conscious that someone followed them, step by step. When they went faster, it was left behind. And when they went more slowly, it caught them up. And there's a real capitalization in this edition, anyway, of the it. It's a real solid thing, but it's not changing its pace.
No, they're just sort of, even then, you don't know whether they are interacting with it in any way or whether they're just in its way. And so they just escape the house ahead of the loop kind of thing.
Right, let's get reductive. It's
Nope.
what we do. It's what we do. So let's categorize it. All right. And we have different categories. Is it a classic ghost story, a haunted house or place? Do I carry on? A physical creature or a monster? Is it cursed or a haunted object? Weird fiction, demonic, otherworldly, psychic, spiritualist, or not necessarily paranormal? Any of those resonate for you? What's the one that jumps ahead? If we're going to categorize it, what would you categorize it as? Type it in. Classic ghost story, haunted house, physical creature, it. Monster, cursed, haunted object, weird fiction, demonic, otherworldly, psychic and spiritualist, a bit of that. Tell us what you think it is. All right, and then I want you to start thinking about your scoring as well. Again, we really reduce it to an almost pointless scoring system. We've got three categories. One is the scare factor. How scary was it for you out of 5? Okay. How scary. And I'm interested in the form that you consumed it in as well. Where were you when you read it? Do you make a conscious choice to read a ghost story in a particular situation or setup? How scary was it? How creepy was it? Doesn't have to be scary for it to give the old back of the knees. Back of the knees? Tickle. Hey, whoa, bit of Eric Morecambe there for you.
Short house.
Yeah, short house. How creepy was it? And then satisfaction overall. Doesn't have to be scary. Doesn't have to be creepy, but as a story, it's a satisfying story. Beginning, middle, and end. Oh, that'll do me. Okay, so scare factor, creep factor, satisfaction level. One of us is after going to go back through all of these for our top trumps situation.
I do note them down somewhere.
Do you?
Yeah.
Good for you. So what have we got coming in? It's a haunted house. Says Claire. It's a haunted house. It's a classic haunted house, to be obvious. Haunted house, Sir Helen, with psychological effects. Yeah, it did 3.587. Is that across the board, Barry? A scary 2. Claire wasn't scared at all. A scary 3, says Rachel. Barry says 3.857. I think that's for creep factor. Creepy 3, says Claire. Creepy 3, says Rachel. They're the same. 4 for satisfaction, says Barry. 4.124. Actually, we'll round it down. And satisfaction, Claire was unsatisfied at 2, and Rachel satisfied at 3. Helen, scary 2, creepy 4. Satisfaction 5.
Oh, wow.
Bang, smashed it. What about you, John? I know what mine are.
I think it's 4s and a 5.
4s and a 5 across the board.
Yeah.
So 4 scary, 4 creepy, 5 satisfaction, 3.5 creepy for Katie as a haunted house. Claire can't get no satisfaction. That is exactly what I thought. 4, 4, 5.
Yeah.
Close to a 5 for the scary, but that's more to do with the fact that I was on the
yeah, it's more scary for you.
And I was next to an open, dark window. I just kept imagining a face looming out.
You've actually been through it all.
I'm satisfied, very satisfied. Katie, like us, I did listen to it 20 minutes before you went live while cooking my tea. So maybe that did change my view on it. It was scary building. And that's the thing, Katie, for me. It built.
Yeah.
It built, and I think it delivered.
Yeah. I think that seeing these kind of anthologies, and there's sort of an argument from a writer's point of view, it almost feels like a lot of these writers have been given the same prompt, which is that, 2 characters visit a haunted house. What happens next? And I think that it's almost like The Empty House is Blackwood doing his very best with a very limited palette. It doesn't expand beyond that basic premise, and a lot of his stories are so much more complicated and deal with sort of really mad things, and this is very simple for him. So I think that within that context, that's why it feels so satisfying to me, because I feel like it's rounded off very nicely. He's done a good job of doing the haunted house story. It
also, because we're kind of wrong word, but forced to read and engage with a story more than once, it became more satisfying.
Yeah,
for me. And when because I've read it a couple of times, I usually read it to myself. I usually read it out loud, and then of course, I read it when I record it. On that final reading, the atmosphere and the creepiness really, really got me. I thought it was just a masterful piece, and like all of these stories. And again, when you say things, I want to go back again and look. I'm not going to. I've got too much to do. But at some point, I'll come back again and it'll come back. Maybe it just isn't as scary if you listen to it in the kitchen, says Rachel, because Rachel was cooking dinner and Claire was doing the washing up. You've got to give these stories their time, their space, and a candle and a nice single malt. Tea is a meal with a drink, says Claire. Oh, is that Barry? Oh, Barry's at it again. Barry, who's also from the Shooters Hill, Woolwich area, as I am.
Yes.
Yes, Shooters Hill. If you stood on my doorstep as a child and looked to your left, you could actually see Shooters Hill.
Well, Shooters Hill is a magical, occult, significant place in its own right, which I could have gone on about, and I nearly did, and then I didn't.
Well, we can do for another time.
Yeah.
Because Shooters Hill, of course, Canterbury Tales and more, and much, much more. Tea is a drink, says Barry. Tea is a meal and a drink, says Claire. Barry, I married a northerner. I have no choice anymore, says Rachel. Okay, fair enough. This is the beautiful thing about language. But, we don't care. Right. Right. So we're back in a couple of weeks' time.
We are back on the 1st of September. Well, with The Five Senses by Edith Nesbit. And I will say this, and I will say this again. I have a crush on Edith. I've read all of her creepy stories. And a biography of another Southeast Londoner. She's from Well Hall. Right, so they're in this nexus. Shooters Hill, Well Hall, Southeast London. That's then. So, okay. To round up, we always like to make some recommendations. They don't have to be creepy. They don't have to be ghost story. What culturally have you been enjoying recently that you could recommend to the book clubbers? So type it in: book, film, theatre, whatever it might be. Put it in. What would you recommend culturally? Have you got anything, John? Or I just yesterday weirdly started rewatching some of the first season of what was the new Doctor Who, and rewatched the Mark Gatiss one with Charles Dickens. What's it called? It's called like The Unquiet Death.
Oh yeah, with Simon Cowell.
Yeah, and that's brilliant.
The gas.
It is so good.
He's good.
And he was so good, but also he made everybody else look like they couldn't act because he's so effortless.
He was definitively Charles Dickens.
But I loved that, and I remembered that it was a good one, but it was the first one of this little rewatch, which I don't even know why it's happening, but it started happening where I've actually gone, oh, this is really good.
The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, which I think is a sitcom, which has been on my kind of list to find out more. Would you recommend it? It's Claire. Rachel is listening to Natalie Haynes stand up for the classics. Bit sad that they've run out of them. They are amazing. There's a new series out at the minute. I enjoy them as well. Natalie Haynes, I think, is just a brilliant performer, stand-up and writer. What would I recommend? I'm going to go with the things we've been watching. Watch the first episode of Lanterns, new DC. Really good. That was a really good opening episode. And I'm still watching Community. First time out for Community.
Oh, right.
Have you watched it?
Yeah.
I've never seen it before. Very much enjoying it. All these things you don't get to watch. Widow's Bay on Apple TV. Tell us about it, Nathan. Would you recommend? I've watched the first 5. Oh, that's good. And I've enjoyed it so far. Light-hearted horror. See, that's what puts me off. I like light-hearted. I like Matthew Rhys. I don't like horror. It frightens me.
Well, what about light-hearted horror, though?
I don't know. Party on BBC Sounds. Probably already recommended that. Party. It's called Party. Oh, The Party. Is that the political comedy? That's very good. Rachel loves Community. Really funny. And Spider-Man was good.
I haven't seen it, but
great.
The kids have seen it.
I think it's great. Yeah. I think great film. Great performances. Been loads over the summer. Odyssey, I enjoyed. Don't want to get in on the controversy. I thought it was great. I think everything else is a bit, it's about as scary as It, the 90s version. Yeah, I couldn't get scared at It because Tim Curry makes me laugh.
Tim Curry.
Tim Curry with teeth. I mean, they're not too far off his own teeth, to be fair. Love Tim Curry. Big fan of Tim Curry. Okay, well, that was our time. We're going to wrap this up now. We do have the afterlife, but that never gets saved. So thank you very much for joining in. New setup. We'll keep experimenting. We don't do it the same way twice, do we? I thought it was the back of your chair. That was actually just touched John's back there.
That's all right. We're into the... just wait until we're into the bit that we edit out.
So if you enjoyed this, the thing you can do for us is to tell other people, to recommend it. I read the story to you, but you can read your own. We always find a link for you free online. John does the research, and then you give us the chat and your thoughts, and we really value that. So there's a whole stream on Substack, YouTube, and across the all of the podcasting places. If you want to leave us a bit of a review or a rating, as they ask, that would be great, because we really like talking to people. We got plans for more lives coming up. We had some fun, didn't we? At
Weird Wirral, we did. We had a fantastic time at Bidston Observatory. Gav made everybody sit on the floor.
I invited people to sit on the floor.
But no, it was wonderful, and it was a really good event, and it was lovely to be part of.
Honestly, follow Weird Wirral on the Instagram and come next year. I'm definitely going whether they invite us or not. John, are you allowed to tell us anything about your grandfather?
He's not my grandfather, my distant relative, the Reverend E.A. Reppion. No, well, so Patrick, who is one of the organisers of Weird Wirral, he is a sculptor. If you live in Liverpool or Merseyside, you might have heard of the Scally sculpture, which has gone up, which is a strange Merseyside folkloric beast. But because I know Patrick, then I was able to recover a thing from my family archive that I've had knocking about for years and years, which is from my distant relative. I can't remember how he is related to me. He's like cousin, however many times removed.
Yeah.
But we are going to be republishing some of his writing together, me and Patrick, which pertains to the Merseyside Scally legend, and there will be a little book launch at Nettle over the water,
which is a great cafe in Port Sunlight.
Yeah, lovely. That's going to be next month,
24th of September.
Is that right?
So I will be sharing that on mine and Haunted Book Club. John engages with social media every now and again, but please follow the Scally. Go and see that statue. It's great.
That's Skalli.
It's a great piece of work. Right then, we're going to go. Rachel did miss Weird Wirral. They were at a quilt festival and was sad. Well, you can just tuck yourself under that quilt and have a little sob. And on that, we'll say goodbye. Goodbye, Haunted Book Clubbers. Good night.
Good night.